it was great to see. I love his energy, and I watched that. Quick thing, Ed. I was scheduled to have my first boxing match on April 30th of this year. One of my old guests called me out of the blue, and I said yes to a 3-round boxing match at the O2 Arena in London. And I started training with David Haye, the former world champion boxer here. And David's become a good friend. He was a big fan of us, fighting for free speech and all the things we did. And I went over to his gym, and David's training me. And Ed, he says, I got to throw you in with some sparring partners that are half your age. And I thought, well, Ed, I got injuries. We're a few weeks out. And one of my other trainers said it's a bad idea. And he said, Brian, you're going to have to get in there and find out what you're made of. And it was probably the scariest thing I've done in a long time. I had this kid half my age cross the ring who wants to knock out Brian Rose from London Real. And I'm in there. I haven't had a pro fight. I did some sparring back in the day. I'm 50 years old at the time. And getting through that was one thing, but then watching it back and learning from it, and I did about 4 or 5 more of those. And then David taught me what you might have taught to a bunch of other people, which is to find a way to slow it down. And then I showed myself that I could be in there actually, and I could handle it, and I could pop him back a few times. And by the 3rd session, I was winning rounds. And David was looking at me like, wow, Brian, you're doing this. You're doing this. And it's based on what we practice, and it's based on the mindset we practice and the combinations we practice. And it was just exactly what you're saying in real time. And to see myself doing it, I could see how at that highest level of professionals, the ones we think are pros, well, the ones between the winners and the ones that don't win, it's just that mental mastery in that moment, right?
Bro, that's so impressive that you did that.
Oh
I love
gosh.
it. I had seen you training. I just didn't know what it was all about. I remember that actually, because you had talked about it. Even you made some posts, I think, about it, because I remember knowing this about you.
Yeah.
But what it is that it's the same thing like you're walking into a sales call. Do you get nervous and things speed up and I can't remember my script or what to say? Or do you have the ability to slow things down and listen to them and be present with them and respond? The best people under duress have equanimity. They can slow things down, not speed them up. Performance happens when everything, you called it the flow or the zone, is when things slow down. The question then just becomes, how do you do it? And it's not very complicated stuff to do. And that's your whole life, man. So impressive to me. The things you're willing to do, the risk of failure, what most people would call failure, that you're willing to take, is so inspiring with you, bro. Like, everyone talks a good game. You've been doing this stuff. And it seems as you get older, your willingness to do it, and actually more famous and more well-known, which is where most people start to play it safer, you've been willing to put yourself out there even more. And I am so impressed with that, Brian.
Well, thanks for saying that, Ed. I still got a long way to go. Trust me. Trust me on that. But the funny thing I'll say, Ed, and then I want to talk about one more dream because it was a great chapter in here. The 40-year-old Brian could have never taken that fight.
Why?
Because he wasn't mentally prepared. I had done some boxing in the past. I had done some martial arts training, at the gym. But he wasn't mentally able to say yes to a fight. And even though I was 10 years later, and by no means at a peak of my physical performance, I knew mentally that you need to get yourself in there and that you can handle this because of all the great mentors I had over the years, including you, that it basically said, you need to go into the fear. It's in your mind. You can find a way through it. This will pass. And then that allowed me to say yes and then go down that path of doing it. So
very inspiring, man.
It's that evolution, and I'm still learning. And luckily, having great conversations with people like you, I can hear these concepts, and then I put them into practice, and then keep learning. And
that's kind of the difference, isn't it? You actually put things into practice.
Yeah.
People go, why are you willing to put everything in a book that you do? Because I know most people aren't going to do it. I'm writing it for the few people who will. And in my book, the other thing too, I'll say, because you do this too, not everything resonates with you. There's entire chapters in my book, you're like, I don't need that one. But there'll be one that you need. And it's just like, I told you this before we started today, watching your life, man, like, it is truly inspiring. There are people who say inspiring things, and then there are people who are inspiring. And to me, I've watched you shift from a dude who says a lot of inspiring things, not shift, maybe you always were, but at least for me, saying inspiring things to like being inspiring. And that's like rarefied air. Like, you are an inspiring man. And I'm really grateful that I get to watch it, because it moves me to take risks that maybe I wouldn't take.